Hey everyone, Dan here. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. And also keep in mind, these are my own thoughts, opinions, and ideas. These are not meant to be, nor should you take them as, investment or trading advice in any way, shape, or form. Do your own due diligence, put in the work for yourself, and make your decisions based on that. Enjoy. All right, folks, here we are after market close on the bloody Friday, December 3rd. We're going to take a look at SoFi. SoFi is, as the thumbnail says, has taken the elevator down. And this is, a common sort of saying or trope in the stock market. But the saying goes, stairs up, elevator down. And that's exactly what we see here, right? Took a long time and a lot of jigs and jags to get up here to press over 24, and then just day after day after day of really incredible downtrending to bring us very quickly down to this like full 100% retracement. And so I thought today we would do a couple of things. We'd sort of see what's happening in the broader scheme to kind of reframe or reset perspectives, and then also blow up this chart because it's messy now, and it has a lot of things that aren't really playing a role at the moment, and so we might as well clean it up, make it more visible, more clearly visible, and put in what's there. So let's start with blowing up that chart. There we go. So fresh and so clean. And let's just focus on what's clear at the moment, right? What's sort of the most impactful thing. So I'll start up here at the top, since why not? This is still, right, the upside target in my mind is this like attempt at 25, which will try to be thwarted by this like 24.69. When we get tighter in, there's some other ranges here around the 24 mark that will come into play, but no need to clutter with that at the moment. It's really just a matter of having a nice upward target in mind, because why not? But last time that we saw this sort of elevator down was here through the bloody June that was 2021 for SoFi, and then we saw this nice scooping motion, this cupping motion, and then this big gap down was due to bad reaction to that earnings. And so what I would look for is a coming recreation of this. That's possible. Another possibility is this sort of flagging channel pattern to come in at some points and sort of stabilize the price. And yes, it could be slightly downward, it could be slightly upward like you saw here, it could be relatively flat, right, and just range bound. But to me, those are the things to be looking for. And I don't know what's going to evolve. I don't even know that this is the floor. But that's what I would be looking for at the moment. That's just sort of like a keep eyes peeled for this type of situation. So if we go back here and just kind of ignore, in situations like this, I like to just ignore like where these most recent candles are and just get them off the screen and just focus on what's important from the historical perspective, right? So trying to see where there's really strong support and resistance, and especially support that turns to resistance and vice versa. That's ideal. So this 1402 looks like a good support to the bottom there. Where's a good, it's like solid resistance here. This is not a bad level. This 1557. Yeah, you know what I like about it? I like that it's where the gap down here hit resistance, and then where the gap up here formed initial support, and then it confirmed there, right? And it was beating its head against that there for a while. And then back here, wick support in these areas, and then a quick resistance that flipped to supports, and then some waffling around this area before it ultimately made a nice flip and helped that big run up toward 25 at that point. So those are the most immediate levels that I would be paying attention to. Now, I don't know if we'll need something below that 1402 come Monday, but I'll leave it just as that being the lowest point at the moment. The next one's a little bit more obscure, I think, because it's either this like 1350-ish level, which is the bottom here, and or it's this like low 13s, right? This like high 12s, low 13s of this resistance here, or it's just somewhere in the middle. So it's a little bit, it gets a bit into no man's land, right? I could see it being something like this 1312 level, this like wick support and wick resistance, and being kind of in between this low and this resistance, this body resistance. But if we do happen to get some motion to the upside, I would look at something on an initial resistance point right around here. See all of the support back here, and then, frittering around this zone. But then here, really resistance, flip it to support, right? But then you had the gap down. And then coming back here, there was a push to grab support there, flipped it to resistance, flipped it back to support, helped launch that run at that point. So that's what I would look for in the coming days. And this one lines up really nicely with the recent candlesticks. So obviously my strongest hope that there was a hammerish candle yesterday meant absolutely nothing. But this is what I would look for in the near term. I mean, I don't even know if it's worth looking at any of these. Like, these are all just going to be situated above and aren't really in the field of vision at the moment, right? RSI is maybe the thing because it's now finally dipping into oversold territory, but who knows if that's really going to be enough of a factor to provide a meaningful lift, But I mean, everything, and at this point, the Ichimoku cloud, the resistance here is going to get pretty solid. But that said, if it is able to get some support of this 1656, taking out of the picture previous support and resistance and just focusing on the cloud, the cloud wouldn't be coming into play as a resistance level until the 18s, right? So there's that. I don't know. Just looking for signs, but really it's hard to get signs when you're just in this elevator down kind of situation. You really need something to start to form. I was trying to talk about this yesterday. You need something to start to form, some sort of slight uptrend, some sort of like scooping here, right? Or some range boundedness over several days, right? This was just a few days. It just wasn't long enough for the downturn that it had endured. It endures these really stark movements, and then the stabilization that occurs, or the sort of trend reversal initiation, in my mind, should generally reflect the sort of the strength of the previous movement. So such a super strong downturn. So I would look for a lengthier requirement for building a base, building a range, starting to build a bit of a cup. And so it's not going to be a few days thing, right? With this type of a crazy movement, it's probably going to be like a few weeks thing is what I'd be looking for it to start to do. But that said, it just needs to start it, right? It hasn't been able to do anything in this motion. Now, stepping away from that at the moment, taking the broader view of things, this is where we were situated today, right? Really rough. I mean, before we had this slight uptick toward the end of the day, we were down here minus 1.6. NASDAQ finishing down 1.92. I mean, all of these were down just really, really starkly. And so, taking that into account, it's not just SoFi. So I don't know that that's any solace. And I know I'm saying something obvious, right? I'm sure you know this, But this to me is more, we have to see where the market's going to go, right? This is a market trend. And to that end, we had this on ARC-F, which is the FinTech Innovation fund of ARC. And there was this range that ARC-F had been in for quite some time, right? This range started in March of 2021, and it broke the range today. It kind of broke it yesterday, but it really broke the range today, and it was a downside break. So there may be more coming. I don't know. But when we look at a range break, like that's what we look at, right? And it's lost now this 43.69 support that we're looking at as the first support level below that range. So that's what that sort of like broader context is looking like on FinX, which is Global X FinTech ETF. Yeah, like similar chart, anyone? The one thing here, this actually isn't that similar of a chart, right? This is a much more stark downturn as opposed to like ARC-F. Yes, it's had this downturn, but it was in more of a range for a longer period of time, whereas this was kind of like ticking up and had some wilder swings in there, but it was making a bunch of higher highs. But in any case, this isn't actually where I wanted to put this. So putting this down like here, you see this previous like floor that it found at this like 41.41 level. So that would, leave it some movement to the downside still if it needs to come down to that full support. But that may be a good opportunity, and you see its previous resistance here. And so that zone could be very, very strong. We'll see. But, just wanted to sort of mention, like, all the indices are suffering. And then, the fintech space as a whole is suffering. And just a lot of times these early stage stocks, these growth stocks that people are looking for lots of proof points to sort of legitimize the market cap. They take the biggest beating because they are seen as the most risky, right? And so if there's fear in the marketplace and the market generally is downturning and folks are pulling money out of, say, like Microsoft, then of course, like, folks are going to pull money harder out of what they view as even riskier stocks. So the last thing that many folks want to be is in a very risky stock in a very uncertain market, or even in a very bearish market, right? So that's like the garbage pile of of the stock situation, in that sort of a setup. Big bear market overall, good luck getting a bunch of inflow into the growth sector because they're just seen as riskier. So that's my take. Trying to keep some perspective on these things. We've been here before is the other thing, right? And at some point, this can start to sort of build some resilience in terms of, okay, we've seen how this can turn around before. We know a lot of the warning signs to look for, right? We have stark downturns here, stark downturns here. We've seen ways in which it can recover. We see some possible patterns that are pretty like traditional, fundamental, right? These exist other places in the market. These aren't just a specific to SoFi kind of thing. These are like common reversal type patterns and movements. So we know what to look for. It's just the challenging part right now is it has not yet even begun to form anything that looks like stabilization, floor, range, trend reversal. So I think that there's probably some time that it's going to take to do that. Like I said, especially given the severity of this movement. I wish I had something happier to talk about on Friday, but this is where we are, the trade the market that we're given. And, I hope that you survived it okay today. Overall, I was just tweeting about this earlier. I'm going to make a video about it after this one, about sort of market psychology and thinking about handling big losses. Because, I was up a bit over 7% this week. Okay, that's the week. But today alone, I was down a little over 15%. So, was feeling really good going into today, but I just had a feeling that I was going to get clapped today. And boy, did I. And on top of it, I would have gotten clapped kind of hard anyway. But I also made some dumb decisions during the day. And that's what I'm going to talk about in the video that I'm going to put out after this one tonight. So if that's of interest to anyone, just sort of like how to think about, how to handle, how to manage days that are really red. And I even think it's way worse when it's on a Friday because you have to sort of live with it all weekend. You don't have a chance to start making improvements, for several days, and it could be hard to sort of like put your mind elsewhere when you should be, spending time with, family, friends, relaxing, whatever. But the flip side of that is it can give you a little bit of space from that bad experience and give you an opportunity to sort of really come back with a fresh head on your shoulders and learn from, what happened when you did make some bad decisions. So long pontification there, but if that's interesting, look for that to come out on the channel later tonight. It'll be me on camera, not the computer screen, with a really plain and or ugly background because I don't have any good recording space in my house other than outside, and it's dark outside right now. All right, folks. I hope that you have an enjoyable weekend and that we're able to come back strong and smart next week. I appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next video.